So let's use the same scenario to execute the production execution process as well. So before that, I would just like to brief you about the prerequisites that we need in order to have a complete end-to-end cycle of the production scenario. It basically starts with the cost estimate on the material master. So we know that the product that we are going to manufacture, it should always have a bill of material, it should have a master recipe or maybe a routing, and and the particular routing will have its own set of operations, and the operations will have its work centers where you have the cost centers assigned to it along with the activities and all. So this is all a standard scenario, right? So and the objects what we just discussed are part of the master data for the production planning module. So if I have to go ahead with the production activity and perform the settlement and the variances on the production order, the first thing is that we should make sure that the material has a proper standard cost estimate created. So for that, basically the costing team is going to run few transactions like CK11 or CK40. So CK11 is basically for a single material, and whereas CK40 is for all the in-house manufactured items in the plant, or maybe we can call it as a mass run, right? So here this is for the single material, and then the transaction is CK11N. So here I'm going to use the costing variant as PPC1. And this is something the costing team is going to do on a monthly basis, or maybe a quarterly or a half yearly. And in some cases, they also do it once in an year, where the raw material prices will be varied, right? So there might be some fluctuations in the prices of the raw materials, and proportional to the raw material prices or your activity prices, the cost of the goods manufactured and also the cost of the product you're manufacturing, it also should vary, right? That's how you're going to compare your profit and losses. So in the cost estimate here, this transaction is going to read all the raw materials. So on the left hand side here that you can see, these are all the raw materials and the semi-finished. So basically the components that we have under this particular product, right? So the complete BOM structure is going to be exploded, and then it is going to read all the sub levels under that. So in simple words, the complete bill of material structure that we have under the BOM of the finished product. So the entire structure is going to be exploded in the cost estimation process. So that's how it is going to know like what all components are needed to manufacture, and what all operations and work centers are going to be used during the manufacturing process. So on the left side, you can see the components, and here on the bottom, you can see the work centers, the operations, the activity types, and the cost of the raw materials, so on and so forth. So all those will be updated here. So once the cost estimate has been reviewed by the costing department, they're going to save the cost estimate, wherein which the planned cost will be calculated for the finished product, right? So here you can see the cost of goods manufactured, the COGM and the COGS. These will be updated based on the prices that are assigned against the raw materials and also the activity types over here, right? So once the cost estimate has been saved, the value gets updated into the material master. So that's how the planned cost for this material, it flows into the production order that we are going to create in the process. So I'm not going to save that for now. It's only for your understanding. So now here I'm going to go ahead with the conversion of the planned order into the production order. So as soon as you see a planned order here, you can basically start with the conversion process, and you can go with the transaction CO40 or CO41. It depends on your flexibility, how you want to convert it. But for now, I'm going to convert it from MD04 itself. So here I'm going to use the option to convert it into a production order. And we can see the total quantity that we are going to manufacture, and what is the start date, the end date. So all these dates are basically calculated from the planned order, I mean to say. And in the components here, we can see the list of components that are needed to manufacture the finished product. And here we have the backflash indicator activated. Why? Because I have set the master data in the routing so as to consume the raw materials during the confirmation of the operation. So here, if I go into the operations, I can see that there are two operations, the first one and the second operation. So in this operations, these components have been assigned, like the first four have been allocated to the operation number 10. You can see in this particular field, the operation number 10, and the component 5 and the component 6, these have been allocated to the second operation, which is 20. Right? So this is based on my master data setup. So now the first activity is that I have to go with the release of the production order. So since we have a user status enabled for this, I'm going to release when I'm going to mark the status as release approved. Only then I'm able to release the production order. But before the release, I just would like to save the order and refresh. So now we have the production order created with the last four numbers as 6046. So now I'm going back into the production order, and to show you the cost analysis, I'm going into the header menu of the go to and then click on cost and then analysis. So once you're into analysis, you have to go into the change option of the layout and then choose cost trend. So this basically gives us the planned cost of this particular material in the production order for the total of 200 pieces. Right? So this is the planned cost in this particular column. So once we post the goods issue, the confirmations, and then the goods receipt, that's where the actual cost is going to be updated. So let me go back for now, and I'm going to release the production order. So with the flag, you can see that the order has been released, and now I'm going to save this. So once the order has been released and I refresh the MD04, you can see a small RE updated in the suffix of the production order line item here. So here we can see that the first numbers are the production order number, and next we have the order type of the production order or the process order, and then we have the status of the production order as RE. It means that it has been released. So once the order has been released, the next step is basically to perform the goods issue. So for that, I'm going to copy the production order number and go into the transaction MIGO, M-I-G-O. And here I'm going to use the option as goods issue. And then the category would be as order, and just paste it. So now you can see that it says that the document does not contain any selectable items. But if I look at the production order, I could see the raw materials here, right? I mean, the components assigned in it and the component overview. But why can't we see this during the consumption process? The reason is that I have activated the backflash indicator over there, right? So with this backflash indicator, system assumes that the consumption of the components should only happen during the confirmation of the corresponding operation. So if you look at the allocation of these components, the first four are allocated to the operation 10 and the last two have been allocated to operation 20, and we also have the backflash activated. So while I confirm the first operation or the operation number 10, then only the first four will be consumed from the stock, and during the confirmation of the second operation, the last two will be consumed in the process. So for that reason, like whenever we have a backflash activated in the production order, we cannot actually use the transaction MIGO to perform the goods issue. So for that, we are going to use the transaction CO11N. And here I am going to paste the production order number. So now the operations I'm going to confirm the first operation. So from the production order, we can see that the total planned quantity is for 200 pieces. So then system assumes that at each operation you are going to manufacture 200 pieces as well, right? So in the first operation you're going to yield out 200 pieces, so that those quantity will be passed on to the second operation. So let's say if in the first operation we have just yielded 170 pieces and the rest 30 are scrap. So in that case, you can only confirm 170 pieces in the second operation as well, but you cannot use the 200 pieces. Why? Because you have made a scrap of 30 pieces, right? So for now, I'm going to yield it for 200 pieces. So since we have the backflash activated for these components, I'm going to click on the goods movement icon over here. And now we can see that the first 4 components have been displayed here. And the movement type that you can see here is a 261, which is basically for the goods issue. So when I click on save, automatically the confirmation of the operation 10 will be posted along with the consumption of these components. But since we are going with a standard scenario, I don't want to use this transaction. So I'm going into the production order, and I want to remove the backflash indicators temporarily for this particular scenario. So we can manually remove the backflash indicator and then save the order. So once the order has been saved, I can go back to the transaction Migo and then use the same selection parameters like the goods issue and the order, and then you have to provide your production order number. So test, and now I'm going to perform the goods issue. So you have to select these components and click on check. So it means that the document is okay, we have sufficient stock available, and then post. So before I post, I would like to show you the status of the production order. So here we can see that we only see the release, the pre-costed, the material availability not checked, and the settlement rule not created. So only these 5 statuses are updated, right? So once I do the goods issue, then you're going to see a different status. So I'm going to post it. So the goods issue has been posted, and we have the material document 182 created. So if I go back to the production order and look at it, so now you can see a new status coming up as GMPS. So this is nothing but basically for the goods movement that have been posted in the earlier transaction, right? So now we are done with the first step. So now since we have actually picked the raw materials from the warehouse location into the production shop floor, so the next activity is to perform the production activities that are part of the operations that we have defined over here. So let's assume that the first operation has been completed. So I'm going to confirm that in SAP in the transaction CO11N. So just enter the order number along with the operation. So now here the expected yield is basically 200 pieces. And if I click on the goods movement, nothing is going to appear here. Why? Because we have removed the backflash indicator. So let's say that I'm not going to yield 200 pieces. I'm just going to yield, let's say, 190 pieces, right? So now the activity values for the activities are going to be updated based on the total yield, right? And I'm going to save the confirmation. So this means that the first operation has been completed on the shop floor. And in the same way, if the second operation has been completed, then we do the same thing with the second operation. Like you can see here, in the previous operation, we have yielded only 190 pieces, right? So that's the reason system actually proposed the 190 pieces. But because this has been yielded from the previous operation, so I can use the same quantity in the subsequent operations, right? So let's say if I change this to the original order quantity of 200 pieces. So this is the message that it is going to throw us, saying that only 190 pieces have been confirmed in the preceding operations. So it says that the total quantity confirmed is not equal to the planned quantity to be confirmed. So it is basically a warning message. You can treat it, or maybe you can just ignore it as well. But it is not a good practice to yield at two different quantities in two different operations, right? So since we have yielded 190 pieces in the first one, we are going to yield the same amount in the second operation as well. So now I'm going to click on the actual data so that the proposed quantities will be updated in this transaction. So now it is 190 pieces, and I'm going to save the confirmation. So once the confirmation has been saved, and if I go back to the production order and look at the status, now you can see that the status CNF has been updated. It means that the order has been confirmed. Let's say if we have used a partial confirmation in the CU11 transaction, let me show you that. So here, if I go to this one, and you can see these two, the confirmation type as the partial confirmation and the final confirmation, right? So let's say if you're not going to yield the complete 200 quantity in today's shift or in today's date, then you're going to use the partial confirmation, the confirmation type as partial, and the yield may be like 100 pieces in today's date and the rest of the quantity in the next day. So the next day confirmation is going to hold the confirmation type as the final confirmation. So whenever you're going to make it as a final confirmation, you need to make sure that you're going to enter the complete quantity that you have yielded in that particular production batch or the shift, right? So then going back to the order, yeah, now we have the goods movement completed, and now we have the confirmation posted. And the next step is basically to perform the goods receipt, like moving the finished quantity from the shop floor into the quarantine or maybe the quality inspection stock. And if there is no quality inspection activated for the material, then it goes directly into the unrestricted use. So before I do anything, let me just show you the status of MD04. So we still see the production order created over here, but now the quantity has been changed to 190 because this is the total yield that we have done in both the operations, right? So now I'm going to copy the production order number and go to the transaction, Migo, to perform the goods receipt. Goods receipt, order, and then just paste the production order number. So now you can see that the total quantity has been changed to 190 pieces based on the confirmations we have posted. So I'm going to enter a few notes over there and then check. Okay, enter the goods recipient and then check. Right, so now it says that there is a deficit of 10 pieces between the target quantity and the actual manufactured quantity. That's fine. So if I look at the stock type, it shows that it goes into the quality inspection stock. Why? Because the QM setup has been activated for this material or the finished product. So now I'm going to post this document. Now it has been posted. We have the metal document created. And now if I refresh this MD04 screen, the production order has been disappeared, and now we have a QM lot created. So with this QM lot, it doesn't mean that the stock is ready for shipping or ready for use. It is still lying in the quality inspection stock, right? So if I take a look at MMBE in the stock overview, so here we can see that the stock is still sitting in the quality inspection use itself and not ready for use. So for that, we are going into the QM lot, So the first thing is that we are going to perform the result recording for the characteristics in the quality inspection lot. So we are going to use the transaction QE01 to perform the results. So here I have two characteristics to evaluate. That's fine. So here the specification is greater than equal to 3080W. So then I'm going to update the result as 3083. And 3085. So my sample size is basically for 2 units. So that's the reason I have to enter these two values. And I'm going to evaluate the results. It has been evaluated. So even this, I'm going to mark it as closed for now. So all the characteristics have been evaluated. And then I'm going to save the result recording. So once the results have been updated for the characteristics, so the next one is basically to perform the usage decision, and the transaction for that is going to be QA11. So this is an individual transaction, but you can also use the report QA32 and QA33 basically to look at the complete set of inspection lots created in a particular date range, or if there are any inspection lots that are still pending for UD or have already updated with the UD. So you have these radio buttons here, right? So in QA32, you can just take out a report and you can use it for the transactional purpose as well, right? So now I'm going back to QA11, and here I've entered the lot, and these are the characteristics we evaluated, and then we are going to provide the usage decision code. So in the usage decision code, we have two options here. One is basically to accept the lot, and the second one is basically to accept the lot along with the stock posting proposal as well, right? So let's see what is, how does it vary by using these two different codes. So let's say first I'm going to use the code as A, which is accept. Now the validation code has been accepted, and then we are going into the inspection lot stock. And here, if you look at the fields, we have the total stock to be posted, and we have these various locations or the various stock categories where the stock should be posted, right? So if I click on proposal, so nothing is going to be updated in the unrestricted use, right? But if I use the validation code as A1, which is basically for the accept along with the stock posting proposal. So if I use this code A1 and go into the inspection lot stock and now click on proposal, so then system is automatically going to move that into the unrestricted use. So I don't want to enter it manually. I just want system to propose it automatically, right? So that's how it works. And if you want to know about these settings of the usage decisions, that would be available in the selected sets, where you can check that in the transaction QS51. So here for the catalog, we have to choose the usage decision catalog as 3 and provide the plant, and just make an asterisk here in the selected set and then hit on enter. So now since we are going with the inspection type as 04, so you have to choose that and then click on selected set codes. So under the 04 for the goods receipt from production, we do have the usage decision codes updated for the code group 01. So here in A and A1, the only difference that you can observe here is basically with the, let me just minimize that. Okay, so in A, we do not have an option to propose the stock posting, right? So this is sitting as blank. So that's the reason system is not able to propose the total quantity that should be moved into the storage location. But whereas for the UD code A1, we see that the posting proposal has been set to unrestricted use, to the unrestricted batch status as well. So if you're going to use a batch status management in your plant, then the batch status is also going to be updated into an unrestricted batch status, right? So these are the options we have, and because of this, we see the proposal being updated with the code A1. And also, if you are going to perform the quality score, or maybe the vendor evaluation, or the total quality of the product that you have manufactured in a specific period, that is going to be based on the scores, right? So let's say if you are going to accept the batch with no amendments or no any conditions, so then it would be 100 score that you're going to assign it to the acceptance code. But let's say if you're going to accept that batch, I mean, you had to accept that batch, but in some special conditions or any other criteria, then you can reduce the quality score over here. So over a period of time, when you evaluate the total acceptance batches along with the scores, then you can see how is the performance of the manufacturer or the supplier. Was he able to provide us in a high quality or as expected, or did we receive the stock into the plant with some special considerations, like he was not able to provide on time, or maybe the quality was not adequate, or where we had to accept in some critical situations for the production. So it all varies on the score, right? So let's say here in the rejected, we have provided the score as 1, right? Where the batch has been completely rejected and we are not going to use that anymore. We are going to send it back to the supplier or the manufacturer. So then this quality score is going to be 1. So that is how basically the quality score is going to help us in evaluating the quality of the products manufactured or supplied. So going back to this, the quality inspection. So since we have the proposal quantity, I'm going to save the usage decision. And once the stock has been posted, I'm going back to MD04 and refresh. So my expectation is that the 190 stock should go and sit in the plant stock of the unrestricted use. So let me refresh. So it just happened, right? So the quality inspection lot disappeared, and the total stock available today is 331, which can actually meet the requirement of the 241 pieces against the LSF. And then we have the leftover quantity of 90 pieces. So once the production has been completed and also the quality has been completed as well, so the next activity is basically to mark the production order as a TECO status. So the production shop floor or the production team, they basically hold responsibility for the goods movements, right? I mean, it can also be done by the stores, right? It depends again from business to business, or how they manage their internal activities. So it goes with the GMPS for the goods issue, and then the confirmation of the operations, and then we have the DLV as well. So the difference between PDLV and DLV is that if we have totally manufactured the total planned quantity without any you know exceptions or without any scraps or losses, so there we would have a status as DLV, which means that it has been delivered completely based on the target quantity or the planned quantity. But here, since we have a deficit of 10 pieces to be manufactured when compared with the total planned quantity, so for that reason we are seeing the status as PDLV, which means that it is a partially delivered. And we can see that there is a shortage of the 10 pieces yet to be manufactured for the total quantity. But we are not going to do that. Why? Because we have consumed the components that are required to manufacture the total 200 pieces. But unfortunately, due to some machine problems or some production issues or any handling issues, we are just able to yield the 190 pieces, out of which 10 are basically scrapped. So that's how we have to accept this particular production batch. So once these activities are completed from the production point of view, so the next step the production manager or the shop floor person is going to do is basically to mark the status of the production order as complete technically. So once we set this status, you will see the status as TECO. it means that technically completed. So all the activities from the production point of view have been completed, and once we save the production order, that is where the costing going to take the responsibility of this production order, and they're going to continue with the variance calculation, the WIP calculation, and then the settlement of the production order. So if I go back into the production order, you will get this information message saying that the change is not allowed. That is only an information message, and it happens when you set the status as TECO. So nothing to worry about that. If I go into the cost analysis here, so now you can see that, let me change it to the cost trend. So now we can see there are values updated for in the total actual costs as well, right? And here we have the plan cost versus the actual cost, and we can see the actual variance that has been incurred during the manufacturing process. So that's about the production order execution. And once the once the costing department has completed their activities along with the settlement process, so the next step they're going to do is close the production order. They use the same option like restrict processing and then click on close. Usually, they cannot do like on a one-to-one production order basis. They basically do at once during the month-end process. So they basically run the transaction like a COHV to set the status as closed, or maybe to set the status as TECO. So this transaction COHV, it can be used by the production departments as well. Like they choose the option for the mass processing, and in the mass processing you can basically set the status as technically complete. So the shop floor person can basically set this status as technically complete based on the complete selection of the production orders that we get in the output of this report, and in one shot he can just update the status as TECO. In the same way, once the month-end activities are completed and if the costing department feels that everything is okay, and then they are going to mark this as close. So that's how the status will get updated into the production order as closed. So that's about the production execution process. So if you have any questions, and please do mention that in my comment section, and please do not forget to subscribe to my channel. Thanks for your time. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy. Bye-bye.